China and Romania celebrate the 70th anniversary of the establishment of their diplomatic relations.
Hospitality of Romanian people to me, to representative of Chinese people. And they say that Chinese people, sisters and brothers.
And then the only country which followed the same path, which objectively became an ally of China, was Romania.
That gave me the possibility to see from outside how China is moving ahead.
Hello everyone, welcome to the special edition of Rencontres avec le monde. And what do we do in the special editions? We travel around the world to meet different people. And today we are in Romania. Romania and China has established their diplomatic relationship 70 years ago. And today, with our guests from Romania and from China, we are going to talk about the cooperation between Romania and China. And I am very pleased to be joined by a handsome Romanian TV host, Adrian Ulso from Antenna 3.
Hi.
And I like your show very much.
Thank you.
And we made a deal, right? Before.
Yeah, we have a deal to say salute to everybody, to your viewers, to our viewers, in the both languages. So I will start with...
Yeah, I'm nervous. You start first.
Okay, I will start with Ni hao.
And I'll start with Bună ziua.
Yeah, great. We did it a very good job for the beginning. So let's see what about the guests.
Yeah, we have our guest from China, Mrs. Wang Jiong. She's the Chinese director of Confucius Institute at Lucian Blaga University of Sibiu. Welcome.
Thank you.
And I'm very glad to welcome our Romanian guest, and I will start with Mr. Titus Corlățean. Hello, Mr. Corlățean.
Hello.
The Vice President of the Senate, of the Romanian Senate, and the former Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and also former Ministry of Justice, and I say thank you to you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, very good. And I say also welcome to Mr. Petre Roman. Hi, good morning.
Hello.
The former Prime Minister of Romania and former Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and also former President of Senate.
Right.
So many. I can put somewhere else, and also professor, which is one of the best part of your career. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
谢谢.
The first question, actually, as I said at the beginning, one of the biggest reasons that we are doing this show is because China and Romania celebrate the 70th anniversary of the establishment of their diplomatic relations. So 70 years is not a very short period of time. So I might like to start with Mr. Ex-Prime Minister. What is your take on the evolution of this relationship over all these 70 years?
Right. I would like to point to a very important and critical moment, which is a turning point in the relations between China and Romania. It was the early 60s when a fierce ideological battle started because the Soviet leaders wanted to impose a very drastic, tough ideological line about the development of the socialist camp. And the Chinese leaders said that they prefer to follow their way. They prefer to listen to their people. They prefer to do everything they can in order to help their people and to develop China in their own way. And then the only country which followed the same path, which objectively became an ally of China, was Romania. Then a very special ties between Romania and China started. Just several years after that, 3 or 4 years after that, another critical moment came. It's the moment when the Soviet Union with other members of the Pact of Warsaw invaded Czechoslovakia. Romania decided not to join the forces, the military forces of the Pact of Warsaw, and there was a risk, it was perceived, strongly perceived like that, a risk that maybe there could be an invasion on Romania. And then Romania decided to ask the political help of China. And China was very, very strongly advising against any kind of such movement against Romania. So this cemented a very special, I would say indestructible link between the two countries.
And what about your take, Mr. Senator?
Well, when discussing about the relationship between two countries, of course, the present, it's important. The future, definitely, it's extremely important, but someone should not forget the past. And here there is an important historical past of friendship and cooperation between the two countries and the two people. And this is why you have mentioned that we are celebrating this year 70 years of our bilateral diplomatic ties and relations between our two countries. It happened in an important moment, first of all, for China. Because October 1st, 1949, it was the proclamation of the Republic. And Romania was the third country in the world that recognized the newborn Socialist Republic of China. And this is why only 4 days later, on 5th of October, we have established on both sides the bilateral diplomatic relations. So this is why we are celebrating today 70 years of diplomatic relations. And this is important in a past history between two countries. There is a historian in Romania and this is not the perfect quotation, but if you want to know your future, you should know also your past. And the past was really a very good in terms of political cooperation. There was a chemistry between the people. And definitely today there is interest to continue to deep these relations. Of course, Romania it's a European and Euro-Atlantic country because we are Europeans, we are members of the European Union. The problems of security of Romania are settled through our partnership and membership, as a matter of fact, through our membership of NATO, but it doesn't mean, and this does not contradict very good relations with some other countries. First of all, now we are discussing about China. So we are optimistic looking to the future.
And I think, Mrs. Wang, you have talked to me about when you arrived, your feeling about Romanian people, their attitude towards China. Do you think that is related also to some historical reasons?
Yeah, I think my focus here is not on the past, not on the historical, but I witness the results of the development after the 70 years of diplomatic relationship between the two countries. From my point of view, I have seen quite a lot of exchanges in education and culture as well. And I definitely believe that this is a kind of achievement after this development of the 70 years. There are many students, Chinese students are coming to Romania to study Romanian culture and the language. And many Romanian students going to China, and then they also to try to learn more about China. So this is definitely the great result of this development.
As Mr. Corlățean said before, and you mentioned also, it's about people and sharing experiences, sharing culture, diversity. It's the most important part of this relationship.
China and Romania celebrate the 70th anniversary of the establishment of their diplomatic relations.
Hospitality of Romanian people to me, to a representative of Chinese people. And they say that Chinese people, sisters and brothers.
And then the only country which followed the same path, which objectively became an ally of China, was Romania.
that gave me the possibility to see from outside how China is moving ahead.
What is your first and strongest experience about the both country? For the Romanians, about China, for the Chinese, about Romania? I will start with you, which was the feeling when you arrived the first time here in Romania, and what was the main discovery that you did here?
I think the most impressive one is the hospitality of Romanian people to me, to a representative of Chinese people. So I felt like it's not a country that I've never been to. It's somewhere that I'm coming back home. Everybody is so kind to me and trying to help me to get familiar with everything. So this is the most impressive one for me.
Because the legend here in Romania is that the Chinese people are smiling every time. So
yes,
you discovered
yes,
the same?
Yes, and they say that Chinese people, sisters and brothers. This is really amazing for me.
Yeah, I confirm. I feel that also.
Yeah.
Even I just stayed for a very short time, but I.
So
had
this
that.
is a reason to come back.
Yeah.
Mr. Petroman,
Yes.
what was your first contact with the Chinese people, culture, maybe officials?
My
Your first visit?
personal first presence in China was as chairman of the Romanian Senate in 1998. And at the time, I was already very well aware of the necessity to strengthen the relations with China. I just mentioned to you what a very rich and important heritage we have in our common relationship. I've seen amazing things already in 1997. I visited two very different places. One was the famous Xi'an, the Xi'an so-called grave of the terracotta soldiers. A very impressive place, incredibly amazing place. Still not entirely known how it was imagined, why it was imagined, but nevertheless is absolutely fabulous. And then at the opposite, it was Shenzhen, a new city, a completely new city, not far from Hong Kong. Well, today, Shenzhen is larger than Hong Kong in terms of economic activities, and that speaks a lot. Since then, since 1998, I've been many times in China, many times. It happened even 3 times to be in China on different occasions, forums, congresses, and I was several times invited to give some lectures there, and I've met many people. So today you can easily see the huge development, miraculous, I would say, development of China in the last 40 years since the open up reforms started. More in these very short periods of time, historically speaking, 40 years, more than 700 million people, Chinese people, are out of poverty. This is unmatched, absolutely unmatched in the history of the mankind. The infrastructure built by China in the last 40 years is incredible. There were years in 2004, 2005 when simultaneously they built 8,000 kilometers of highways per year and 6,000 kilometers of railways per year. It's absolutely fabulous, and today, of course, everybody knows that China is the second largest economic power in the world and still moving on, because, and that is very important to mention, The goal of the Chinese leadership is still the same, to improve the quality of the life of the Chinese people.
China and Romania celebrate the 70th anniversary of the establishment of their diplomatic relations.
Hospitality of Romanian people to me, to a representative of Chinese people. And they say that Chinese people, sisters and brothers.
And then the only country which followed the same path, which objectively became an ally of China, was Romania.
That gave me the possibility to see from outside how China is moving ahead.
Mr. Korotan, your first and strongest experience about China, when it happens, and what was it?
As a matter of fact, you cannot say the strongest, because there are a number of strongest souvenirs when discussing about discovering China. And I do remember, first of all, that I visited China first in 2002. It was an official visit of the Prime Minister at the time, and I accompanied as advisor for foreign policy of Prime Minister Adrian Năstase, his visit in China. And since then, for a number of years, it happened that for official purposes, I visited China every 2 years. That gave me the possibility to see from outside how China is moving ahead from economic and social point of view, and honestly it was extremely impressive. Of course, everybody who comes in China, in Beijing for instance, wants first to see the big important places of Beijing. You want to see the Forbidden Wall, for instance, different other beautiful places or interesting places, Tiananmen Square, and crossing the big boulevard of 60 or 70 kilometers is not like our Magheru Boulevard in Bucharest. Definitely to go outside and to reach the Great Wall. So from a cultural, touristic, architectural, historical point of view, China is so rich. I was also once, and I had the privilege to discover the terracotta soldiers, which is amazing, impressive. I visited also the Three Gorges plant producing hydro energy. And there I discovered another thing, which is a bridge, a link between the Chinese and the Romanians, because at that time it was quite close to finish the work and to start working this hydropower plant. And there we have discovered, it was an international mission at the time, that all the technical big stuff was produced and was used by the Chinese came from Europe, France, Germany. I will not quote the companies, but the engineers were Romanian. The engineers were Romanians, those who contributed to design, to build that hydropower plant. They were Romanians. You know, we have a great tradition of hydropower plants in Romania.
Mr. Roman, it's one
and Prime Minister Roman can mention much better than myself. But I was very proud, honestly, to see that Romanian engineers, they were contributing to a huge achievement of China.
That is due to the Iron Gates big Romanian hydropower plant. That was the experience, big
but
experience,
keeping the proportions,
which
are
was
different.
considered excellent in order to be replicated somehow by the Chinese people indeed.
So I have two types of souvenirs. The official one, and I can mention briefly one or two, and the personal ones. During my last part of the intervention, I will mention also one of these. The official, it's saying that all the time you must be extremely well prepared when you have dialogue with our Chinese partners. You should be extremely well prepared, attend to nuances. and to support your interest and to receive the interest of the Chinese. There is a chemistry, honestly. If you know how to deal the discussion, you can see that there is establishing a good dialogue and a good chemistry between people. I do remember one important moment for you, for the Chinese, but also for us as friends of China. There was a terrible tragedy because a big so-called influenza flu epidemic happened in 2003 or something like that. Yeah. At that time, it happened for us as Romanians Christians, it happened before the Easter. And we received a phone call, and I was in a short holiday. I received a phone call, it was from the cabinet of the Prime Minister at the time, and the message from the Prime Minister was the following. I will go to Beijing in this extremely complicated moment for China as a sign of solidarity from the Romanian people, with no official economic, I don't know, some other projects, but just to be there in a moment when China suffered a lot. And not so many nations were sending at that time official to be present in China. And I asked how many days we have, how many weeks we have at our disposal to prepare. And the answer was 5 days. And I said it's almost impossible in 5 days to prepare such a visit. But it became possible, and we did it. The Cabinet of Foreign Policy of the Prime Minister worked hard, day and night. And the visit was a successful one. Because also at the moment of the protocol when arriving to the palace of the government, the Prime Minister didn't wear any gloves, any mask of protection and so on. It was simply as a friend. And we knew that after that, many years after that, during the official discussions, the second words that was said after the welcoming from the Chinese host was, we don't remember that when it was a terrible moment for the Chinese people, your Prime Minister, Romania, and your official delegation was present and as a solidarity sign with us. So it was something that we cannot forget. Now, there are many...
You didn't say who was the Prime Minister?
Adriana Stase, I have mentioned.
Asupra Chinei prin intermediul carantinei impuse în urma epidemiei de SARS. Și în felul acesta se încerca distrugerea legăturilor economice, a exporturilor, blocarea turismului în China. Tocmai fusese numită noua echipă de conducere a Chinei și sigur că era un moment extraordinar de delicat. Singurii premieri care au avut curajul să meargă în vizită în China, spărgând această blocadă, au fost premierul Raffarin al Franței și cu mine, în calitate de prim-ministru al României. Chinezii n-au uitat lucrul ăsta. Și am fi avut în acea perioadă și imediat după ocazii extraordinare pentru a beneficia de o stare de spirit deosebită. Apropo de prietenul la nevoie se cunoaște și formulele clasice pe care ei le invocau în legătură cu vizita pe care noi am făcut-o atunci și care a avut un răsunet extraordinar în China.
China and Romania celebrate the 70th anniversary of the establishment of their diplomatic relations.
Hospitality of Romanian people to me, to representative of Chinese people. And they say that Chinese people, sisters and brothers.
And then the only country which followed the same path, which objectively became an ally of China, was Romania.
That gave me the possibility to see from outside how China is moving ahead. On a private personal level, as I told you before starting this discussion, My daughter, it happened that was member of the most important choir of children in Romania, Allegretto. And Allegretto was famous having different events all around the world. Allegretto, at a certain moment, this child choir was invited to 2 international festivals in Hong Kong and in Shenzhen. And they worked, before leaving Romania for this event, they worked with the cultural attaché from the Chinese embassy, and they learned 1 or 2 songs in Chinese. They worked hard. 2 weeks, the children worked hard to learn properly these songs in Chinese. And it was really a huge success, because they won the 2nd prize and the 3rd prize on the other festival.
Not only because they have
TV
Chinese lyrics.
channels, newspapers reflecting the Romanians singing Chinese. What is interesting, it happened that at the end of the year, I was inviting during the celebration of the New Year Eve in Romania for a TV special event, you know, for half an hour, and I took my daughter. It happened among all the other presents in the TV, this special event, that someone asked my daughter, I know that you sing in a choir and so on, in what languages do you sing? And she started, English, French, Spanish, Italian, and Chinese. Chinese, is it possible? And at the request of the moderator, she sang that song in Chinese. And once again, because it's not a very simple thing for Latin people like Romanians to speak Chinese, but
you
it
should
happened.
have brought your daughter today.
She's already married. She's grown up now.
You mentioned the name of the former Prime Minister Adrian Năstase, and we have the chance to get a message from his part. It's a recorded message. It's about a book, amazing book that you looked at yesterday with envy also. It's an album, a special volume that was printed for the 60 years anniversary of the Romanian-Chinese relationship, and so 10 years ago things were looking like the Prime Minister Adrian Năstase already told us a few moments ago.
Această poveste a celor 70 de ani de legături între România și China, de relații diplomatice neîntrerupte și mai recent, cei 15 ani de la semnarea unui parteneriat amplu de prietenie și cooperare între România și Republica China. De aceea, iată că acest moment al sărbătoririi celor 70 de ani de relații diplomatice ne oferă prilejul de a privi în trecut, dar reprezintă și un moment important în care să încercăm să gândim în noua situație politică a lumii felul în care ar trebui să dezvoltăm relația cu China.
To improve cooperation in any area, we need to know each other, to comprehend each other.
Okay. And then my director, Professor Constantin Oplean, said, do you know what is beziv? In Romania?
Drunken.
Drunken. Yes.
The best toys of our childhood came from China.
We should move quickly in that direction, and that is very beneficial to both.
For the businessmen coming from China, it became much easier.